Right. Welcome, everybody. It is 6:30. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We have most council members. Councilmember Harekesi is on his way. He has checked in, so he will be here shortly. He will be joining us. Otherwise, we have the mayor joining us today up here. And I just want to do a little introduction before we dive in. This is a town hall meeting. And the purpose of this meeting is to give an opportunity to give more information about the proposed property tax increase for the public to ask questions. This is not the Truth in Taxation meeting. We will have that in August 9th. Is that true? Yes. So August 9th will be the official Truth in Taxation meeting. And there will be opportunities to speak there as well. So I just want to be clear that this is an additional meeting, just for an opportunity for more information and more conversation about it. Let me make sure there's not anything else. So how we're going to run this meeting is we're going to start out, and Brenda will give us our finance director will give us a presentation on property tax. From there, we'll open it up to citizen questions, and we will have an opportunity for people to come to the podium and ask questions, get answers, and then we will wrap up the meeting from there. So it is a more more casual meeting. We're up here for the purposes of streaming so people can watch online, but we hope that you do feel really comfortable asking questions and getting the information you need here. With that, I welcome Councilmember Harekesi. Welcome. And we'll start out by turning to Brenda for her presentation. Thank you, Brenda.
So people who've been involved in all of the meetings have seen parts of this before. I keep playing with my graphs. So in general, but just a general budget overview, we get our revenue from many sources. The majority of it, 40%, comes from sales tax, and 19% comes from property tax. Property tax is stable. I'm pretty much guaranteed that, before the property tax increase, it was $8.9 million, almost $9 million. And after, it will be this $10.8 million. I'm guaranteed that every year because they adjust the tax rates. So, but I'm not guaranteed the sales tax. As soon as people stop buying cars, going to the mall or whatever, my sales tax goes away, and so does the basis for a lot of our budget. We've got some other taxes in there. Charges for services, we do charge to rent the park pavilions and stuff. Usually not as much as it costs us to run the entire program, especially if you include the capital that's involved. In this particular budget, we are budgeting a use of reserves. It has changed slightly from this graph. It's now at $525,000, but we are going to use some of our reserves in this budget.
Quick question, Brenda, on that last slide.
Yes.
Just for the citizens' knowledge, what is the typical percentage that sales tax makes up in a normal year? You've been talking about how sales tax keeps being bigger.
It depends on your city.
Okay.
Here, it's always been like a 40 to 45%. Okay. If you go out to Harriman, some of the cities that don't have a retail base, their property tax probably pays for 55-60% of their operations.
Okay.
So it just depends on the city, but we're always hovering anywhere between 40 and 45%.
For sales tax.
For sales tax.
Okay. So it's normal right now, percentage-wise.
Yes. It's kind of scary, but it's normal.
Okay.
Anything that's volatile is scary for a conservative finance director. So where it goes, I just did this based on the big major categories. Police is our largest. It's approximately $16 million, or 28% of our budget goes towards police. This is salary and operations. This is not capital. This does not include the police cars. That is paid for out of our capital improvements projects fund. And so this is just salaries and operations for all of these things. Fire is second at 18%. Then comes parks and recreation. That includes the senior rec center, the recreation center, the arts, all of the parks and open spaces that those guys maintain. General government, that's people like you, the council, me, the attorney's office, stuff like that. We're down there at the 9% range. Development services, that's the building permit people and the business licensing. Debt, we have 4.7 million in debt. That includes the rent for the new city hall or the bond payment for the new city hall, depending on what you want to call that. And then transfers out. Those are funds that are required. Some of them are required to be used on certain things, so we send them to the capital improvements, the capital projects fund. Most of that is roads, the sales tax that we collect for the transit stuff goes over there and then is used out of the capital projects fund, along with just basic, there's a transfer that goes to RDA to pay for the property that the city hall is staying on, stuff like that. Public Works, it seems pretty small down there at $4.9 million or 9%. Those are just salaries in Class C and a little bit of operations. Those are the stuff, small projects. We can pave a very small road on our own. If it gets above a certain level, we have to go to an outside contractor, and all of that stuff is paid for out of the CIP fund. So this is stuff that we're doing on our own. Our sidewalk maintenance program is in here. So that's where it's going. Most of it, if you just look, the majority is either fire or police. You add those two together and you're getting up right around, you're almost over 50%. You're close. So in general, our general fund summary, which is what we're interested in because that's what the property tax goes to. This particular budget is predicting the use of the $572,000 of reserves will still keep us at a quarter or 25%, if I've got everything budgeted correctly, which is sufficient. That means if all of our income stopped, we could run for 3 months before we all were unemployed. Or there are other things we could do, but yeah, if all of the income coming in stopped, we could last for 3 months. That's okay. So how the property tax rate is calculated. This is the thing that everybody kind of thinks about. They assume that the city is going to get a whole bunch more money because everybody's property values went up 28% on average this year. That's not true. Without a property tax increase, all that happens is they lower the rate. So we get the same amount of money. You guys, the rate goes down. You may or may not pay more in property tax. So like in calendar year 20, we'll just kind of go through this really quick. Taxable property value was 5.5, I think you would call that $1 billion, citywide. So that was the taxable amount of the property. Tax rate that year was 0.001689. So you take your value. There's an exemption for residential. You don't pay on 100% of the value. You pay on 55%. We had new growth of that year of 109,000. And so they took the 5.5 billion. We were guaranteed $9.2 million in income. That comes down to the 0.001689. 2021, you start with the $9.2 million of revenue. The new growth that year was a whopping $127,000 in taxes. That gets you to $9.4 million. We had a slight increase in values of properties that year, so we're now at 5.8. Do the math, and last year's tax rate was 0.001608. So we go on to 22, we're guaranteed the 9.425. We had a whopping, this isn't even better, $66,000 worth of new growth. Everybody thinks we have a ton of new growth out there. They're building, not a lot came online last year. I requested, or we have requested, a property tax increase of $1.4 million. That would say that our income is $10,905,000. The property tax values went up an average of 28%. So we're now at $7.2 billion. And if I got that right. And so our tax rate with the new growth would be 001513. So we've asked for a 15% property tax increase. Your value went up 28%, so the rate is actually going down. So that's how they calculate our property tax. So this is a history of how our property tax rates have gone in the last 10 years. You can see it slowly decreases in 2018. That's calendar 2018. We had a large 40-something% property tax increase. And then it starts going down, and it's still going to go down this year, even though we are asking for a rate increase. We're asking for a revenue increase. So where does that great big property tax notice that you just got, where does it go? If you live within the Murray School District, not all of that 57 cents is going to Murray, but it's going to a school somewhere. So they get 57 cents of every dollar. Salt Lake County gets 19. Murray City gets 16 cents. There are some other miscellaneous ones who get 4 cents, and the Murray Library gets 4 cents. The thing to remember about that Murray Library, if you weren't paying for the Murray Library, you'd be paying for the county library. Their rate is higher. So, and we are not asking for, the Murray Library is not asking for a property tax increase, so their rate is dropping. If you're in the Granite School District area, their taxes are slightly higher for the schools. So that's at 59 cents. The county is, because of how the math works on a dollar, the county is a little bit lower at 17. Murray's hanging in there at 13 cents. The library's still at 4. They have water and sewer in some of those areas where they have to pay property tax for their water and sewer systems, which is 4 cents. And then there's some other miscellaneous ones put in there that add up to 3. So even though your tax bill is $1,000 or $2,000, and we are saying that we're asking for a 15% increase, we're not asking for a 15% increase on that whole $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever it is. We're asking for a 15% increase on our 13 cents, or our percentage of that. So we're asking for a property tax increase because, just as I had just explained, the city is guaranteed the same amount of revenue plus new growth. As everybody knows, costs are increasing. Property tax growth has not been substantial over the last little while. We are not a city that is growing exponentially like Harriman or West Jordan or South Jordan. We are growing. We are replacing some single families with other residents. We are redoing some of the commercial areas, but we are not growing as fast as some areas. The main reason that we would like a property tax increase is that police and fire, in order to keep our public safety people, it's a very competitive business right now between all of the cities, and to pay them appropriately, the budget for public safety has increased 17% or $3.2 million since our last property tax increase. And we're not trying to be the highest paid fire and police officers. We think we have the best fire and police officers, but we're trying to pay them average, or we're trying to keep them average. We have the best, but we're going to pay them like the average. Sorry, guys. So $2 million of that increase has occurred between the beginning of the fiscal 22 budget and the one that we are just going into right now. So I would have loved to ask for a 20, 30, 40% property tax increase and cover all of those all at once. But that's not realistic. The 15% we're asking for, the $1.4 million, gives us a start. Hopefully the sales tax will hang in there and we won't go into a major recession and lose all my sales tax. That's what that 25% sitting there. So if that happens, we can still pay all of our people. In 2018, this is my last reason, we had a 45% property tax increase over and over and over again. It had been a decade or more since we had done a property tax increase. They said, please do more frequent, smaller increases. So we just tick it up a little bit. And due to the pandemic, we haven't done that for 3 years. We had planned on doing it every other year, just trying to keep up with inflation a bit, but we didn't do it. But the main reason we need to do it is to keep up with the competitive salaries for not only our police and fire, but our water techs or our street guys, because that's the general fund, our engineers, our building permits people. They are highly skilled in specialties that other cities would love to grab from us. So if we don't pay competitively, people will jump. And that's our main reason for asking for this 15%, and to kind of tick up the property tax a bit. So how much is this going to cost people? It's interesting, the average price assessed value. Now you could probably sell your house if it's assessing for $523,000, it's going to sell for more than that. The Salt Lake County assessor always errs on the side of low, because he can't go out and look at every single house and do every single, so they always err on the low side. So on a residence that is taxable value, you guys have all gotten your tax thing, especially if you have them emailed to you. It would be $56.38 per the year. That's how much your property tax will change. The Murray tax on a commercial property valued at the same amount would increase $102 per year because they're taxed fully. They don't get that residential exemption.
And I just want to note, when you say that's the increase in property tax, that is Murray's increase.
Murray's.
Because if you look at your bill, which I have mine on my phone, there are 3 or 4 other areas that have much sharper increases than what we're doing.
Depending on where you are, if you're in the 84107 zip code, which is basically here, Central Valley Water Conservancy is asking for a raise. The county on the collections is asking for a little bit. The statewide assessment's asking for a little bit. And then, but if you're in the newer section of Murray, try not to say it, the newer section of Murray, there are quite a few of their taxing entities that are asking for a little bit more money. And there's nothing I can do about that. I wish we all weren't doing it, but we are. This is the Murray portion. So of the $300 or $400 that you're paying to Murray, it will go up $56.38. That notice that was sent out, I didn't put a picture of it in here, but it will tell you what your property tax was going to, most likely, if you live in a house, increased a little bit anyway, even without us asking for a property tax increase, because residential property values increased more than commercial property did. And so some of the tax burden, a little of it's being shifted between the two, but there's nothing I can do about that. Next year, commercial might raise faster than residential and it'll flip back the other way. Or you live in a really nice neighborhood and its values increased a lot, and there's another neighborhood where something went all to pot and their values didn't increase as much as yours did. So that's why every year they change slightly. Okay, that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll open it up for questions. You will need to fill out a form with Jennifer. You can do that after if you prefer, but she'll have the form for you. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and your city of residence. And anyone who is interested in speaking may so at this time. I'm going to make a really long, awkward pause. I want to make sure everyone had time to sprint up here. I'm going to make awkward eye contact with each and every one of you. Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you being here to hear all of that information, and we appreciate Brenda sharing it with us. And hope you took some time to look at all of the documents that are over to the side. But if there are no questions, then we will adjourn this meeting for today. And please know that there is the Truth in Taxation, August 9th, and there'll be opportunities for public comment there as well. But for now, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.